Hey gang, long time no talk. I just wanted to once again talk about the books on my bedside table because I finally have been reading again because I've been doing a freaking internet digital detox. Computer now for me equals work. And I am actually physically capable of doing other things. I'm reading more, which I'm so happy about because I've not been much of a reader for so long because my attention span has just been so whack. But I just finished a book in a day, and that book is through. I actually just I should probably go grab it, a new 5-star read. That's a new thing with this new year is I am over my hater girl era. I'm over trying to critique and all of that stuff. At this point, I see a book as a finished product, and if I'm going to interact with it, I'm interacting with art. And in interacting with art, I think the goal should be to experience and honor the piece of work, as opposed to picking it apart so that you can say, well, this is what they should have done, or this would have been a better choice, when it's like the creator had something in mind when they were making it, and that's what it should be. I'll show you my other book that I'm talking about. Okay, trying to figure out how to get my stinking voice recording app to stop shutting off every time I start a recording is going to be the death of me. So the 5-star book I was talking about is actually a non-fiction book, which is crazy because I am infamously not a non-fiction reading gal. It's the attention span I was talking about. I can't do it. I mean, the only non-fiction book I gave 5 stars, I think, was a book about Vincent van Gogh that I read when I was 15. Put up a picture or whatever of it, but it was kind of like a biography, a little bit, went over his life, and I imagine some of the art. I can't even remember now, but it was such a visceral experience reading that when I was 15. It that truly, it was so influential, so impactful on me at that time. It's crazy to think about. Anyway, just for context, I think that's the only other nonfiction book I've given 5 stars. But this new one that I am really glad to have read, I'm sure it wouldn't be the most groundbreaking thing for people more familiar with this topic. Poetry is the topic. I have always had a very from the sidelines view on poetry. I've always been like, I want to be the kind of person who reads poetry and writes poetry and is all pretentious and blah 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 blah. I've always wanted that, because to just be so unabashedly confident in one's own self and the way they see the world, so far up. Anyway, it's always struck me as something very desirable, but I never made the effort to really read much poetry, and I would write some things under the guise of songwriting, even though I never wrote melodies. I would just write words, lines that rhymed. So basically, I was only ever writing poetry. So I did that a lot as a teenager. And then I kind of stepped away from that for a long time, and I would do more prose writing. I've attempted writing multiple novels, all of which I'm presently in the middle of working on. Poetry, I've never really done much with. I mean, I've always been like, oh, that's a cool idea. But when I was out thrifting at one point, I came across this book called Poemcrazy by Susan G. Wooldridge. Poem Crazy, Freeing Your Life with Words. It was just, I mean, it's basically my introduction into the concept of poetry, really. It's so fascinating. All of the chapters are very short. They're like 2 to 3 pages, and they're kind of like little anecdotes or just a little bit about a particular thought by the author, and most of the chapters end in like a practice section where there's prompts. And the prompts is really what struck me. Here, let me give you an example. Because it had me seeing things in such a different way than I ever would have seen it before in terms of writing and words and language. Write words down. Flap, tip, lob, elope, scrounge. Look around and steal some words. Lamborghini, jute, wombat. Go ahead and make up a word. Lasuni, flapoon, no plat. Be sloppy, don't think. You can't make a mistake. There aren't any wrong words. Phantom, strut, tumble, porch, dragoon. Don't worry too much about meaning for now. Words carry meaning along with them. Put words down and meaning will begin to rush in. Give each word a color. Vermilion, regret. List the senses and give each sense a color. Peach, hearing. Toss in words from foreign languages. Chow. Go for sound. Hum, fizz, fiddle, fandango, zigzag, etc., etc., etc. Anyway, I don't know. It's just because I would think of writing and books about writing as these are the rules. This is what you need to do. These are the, I don't know, methods that work and things like that. But this is very much feel it, throw stuff out, like just put it down on a paper, even if it doesn't make sense. Feel it, even if it seems incoherent or anything like that. I don't know. Like I said, for people who are more familiar with writing and or reading poetry, I'm sure this is nothing crazy to them. This book was published in the 90s and it talks a lot about word tickets. So it's the idea of you have tickets and you just tape all these random words on them or write the words or whatever the case. So you have all of these tickets and then you can arrange them and then you can come up with interesting phrases or even sentences based around these things. So it's like the magnet poetry, but it's basically that idea, just taking these words and putting them together and seeing what they evoke. I just found the way Susan G. Wooldridge would write about how she writes about poetry and language and words. It is so freeing your life with words, as it says. To me, it was just very invigorating and it made me see things in a new light in terms of writing, but then even just in examining life. I didn't end up using the prompts for every single chapter immediately because I was going through the chapter, like reading it so quickly I didn't stop to write something at the end of each chapter, but I did for the first few days when I started reading this. And after just several days in a row of writing, the words started coming to me when I was just doing other random things, like not even thinking about writing. And I was just examining moments more closely, really sitting in moments and examining how I feel, examining the things that are going on around me. Very interesting. So now it's like everything I'm doing, the people I interact with, the people I see from afar, seeing people in their own moments, it's like there's poetry everywhere. And I'm talking like this, and I'm like, I guess I'm starting to sound like the pretentious sort of person that I always was like, they're so annoying, I wish I were them. So I have done some more writing, and it's just writing in a way that I never would have written before. This is one of my more recent reads, and I'm really happy to have read it, and I would encourage other people to read it too if they're interested in the idea of poetry. Probably if they're not as familiar with it, if they're not very well versed in poetry writing. Because if you are, you might already know all of this stuff. I don't really know. It's new to me. It's completely picked it up on a whim at a Goodwill. So this was a recent one that I really liked. I just read Brutes in a day, technically more a night. I read about a third of it during the day yesterday, and I went to sleep very early, like 8 or 9 p.m. I woke up like between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. I kept trying to force myself to go back to sleep, and I just could not go back to sleep. So about 1, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna read until I fall asleep. I ended up finishing the book at 5. It took me 4 hours to finish reading it, which I'm a very slow reader. I don't know. I don't know how quickly other people read, but that's actually really fast for me. The fact that I got through it that quickly. I found it to be a very easy, engaging read. I just kind of like tore through it. I'm just like flipping the pages, going, 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 and I don't know if this is a testament of my improving attention span, because I've seen other people say that this book was really slow and really boring. I'm like, not for me. I mean, I was just tearing through it. I found it very easy to read. But based on everything that I had heard people saying about this book prior to me having read it, like over these last 2 years that it's been out, everyone was always like, it's so confusing. It doesn't make any sense. It's just these girls, but like, I'm here for it. Some people were like that, and some people were like, this is horrible drivel, blah, 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 blah. But I was like, whatever the case, I'm interested in seeing my own thoughts. And when I was reading it, I'm surprised that there are, like, the general consensus is that it's confusing, because I did not find it confusing at all, except for the ending. The ending, when I finished it, I was very confused. It was also 5 in the morning. The way it ended, I was not satisfied with it immediately. I was like, okay, because to me, I don't mind if a book doesn't have a lot of plot as long as there is ultimately a point. And when I finished this book, I was like, what was the point? I mean, I get it. It's like girlhood. But even that, I'm like, I don't even what even is this? No spoilers or anything like that. I ended up looking it up, and I was reading some Reddit threads, the way you do, the way one does, and I got a little bit of a clearer idea of what other people were thinking, and it helped me figure out what my own thoughts about it, and I actually ended up appreciating it a lot more after that level of cogitating. And this is what I mean, because immediately upon finishing it, an older me, like me from the last few years, would be like, 3 stars, I guess. I mean, it was okay. It didn't really, I don't know. And then I would move on. But I really want to be more conscious of understanding stories and appreciating stories where they are and analyzing it so that I can better understand the material, as opposed to analyzing it to make it less than or point out in ways that it is less than. But ultimately, I enjoyed the prose. It has a very palpable environment to it, which I really loved. I'm surprised that I went through it so quickly. I do not often read books in a day. Like, the last book I can remember reading in a day was years ago. We Were Liars, which, interestingly, I was thinking of We Were Liars while reading this. I think I saw a Goodreads review where someone was saying that this book, Brutes, is like if Bunny by Mona Awad, The Virgin Suicides by Jeffrey Eugenides, and We Were Liars by E. Lockhart all kind of came together. That's what this book is. And I was actually thinking the same thing. Like, those were all of the books I had in mind while I was reading this. A book that I have that is new is not even that new anymore because I'm taking so long to read it. Sunrise on the Reaping, which, if anyone watched the Hunger Games video, which they didn't, I didn't even watch it. I mean, I did. I had to endure. You can't even imagine how long that thing took to edit. Sunrise on the Reaping. I was tearing through this one too, and I was like, I'm going too fast. So I got through, I don't know if you can see that. Anyway, halfway. So I set this down for about a week, and that's when I read Poem Crazy and Brutes. Meanwhile, I have been listening to audiobooks a lot more. I recently listened to The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo, and I liked it. It did feel like, I don't know, like the environment of it was rich and it was interesting. I was never bored. I was always like, oh, excited to listen to whatever was next. But ultimately, by the end of it, I was just like, okay, but I'm glad I read it. I didn't, or listened to it or whatever. I did enjoy it. So that was good. And then I have been listening to, I actually have the physical copy, even though I've been listening to the audiobook, but The Son of Neptune, which is the second book in the Heroes of Olympus series, which is a spin-off of the Percy Jackson and the Olympian books, which I read the Percy Jackson books for the first time a couple of years ago. I'm like feeding the inner child. I was really big on that for a little while there, and I think I kind of still am, just continuously in my life. I know there's a lot of, I don't know about rhetoric, but a lot of discussion about adults reading books for kids, and people arguing that it is not good, that it's like adults should not be reading books for kids because they're for kids, and it can denote, I don't know, be it like a lack of intelligence, or I don't even know. Frankly, I think people should be able to read whatever they want. And a good story is a good story regardless of the demographic that it is for, because ultimately demographics, intended audiences, are it's a marketing thing, like for the publishing, so that they know who to market to so they can sell the books. But I'm presently in the middle of listening to The Son of Neptune. I had that thing on hold on Libby for, you can't even imagine, like 7 weeks or something. Since I finished Poem Crazy, the nonfiction book that I actually enjoyed, I'm like, well, maybe I should read some of the nonfiction that I have, because I have so freaking much on my shelf. I have all sorts of stuff that I'm like, I'll get to it one day, and then I never get to it, so now I'm trying to make myself get to it. But I got a copy of Disfigured by Amanda Ledick. I don't know how to say her name. I saw the book Leo, Leonie from the book Leo, talk about this book, and ever since I heard her first talk about it, I always kept coming back to it in my mind. From what I gathered about it, it talks a lot about how in fairy tales may feature disfigurement, but never in a happy ending. A happy ending equals being healed or recovered from a disfigurement, or disfigurement is a punishment bestowed on evil beings. From what I understand, I've just started it. I've only read like 1.5 chapters of it so far, but I think it's probably going to discuss the importance of representation for disabilities in stories, and also to unlearn the idea that a disability is a punishment or something you need to fix. So I just started reading this one today, and I am intrigued so far. That's pretty much all I'm going to talk about, because I've already yapped so much. I have so many books just scattered around. Maybe I'll talk about those more another time, but for right now, I think I'm just going to leave it at these ones: Son of Neptune, Sunrise on the Reaping, Poem Crazy, Brutes, and Disfigured. I am still making my way through a book, which I'm actually not making my way through it because I haven't read it since it's probably featured in an old video. Still on my bedside table, Great Folk Tales of Old Ireland. It's still there, still waiting to be finished. I'm like a quarter of the way through, and it's so thin. Look at that, that's crazy. Those are some of the books that I have been reading or am actively reading right now. I'm probably gonna go to bed since I went to sleep at 5 in the morning earlier today. Okay, good night, gang. Thank you for watching if you did. If you've read any of these books, or you want to read any of these books, let me know your thoughts. Whether you liked them, whether you hated them, whatever. Let me know. I'd love to hear. And whatever you might be reading too.